Hello. This is Elizabeth Clare Brewington with Discover Brightside. And yes, we influence and we review books. And I'm here with one of my favorite authors, and we will definitely be featuring her book this month and all through summer. I think it makes a fantastic summer read. I'm here with Tamara, and she is a genealogist and debut author and spent over 25 years researching her family story. She's passionate about uncovering hidden family histories and inspiring others to transform their own personal ancestral stories into narratives that endure. Tamara lives in Georgia, and her family holds a background in biology and occupational therapy.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes.
Welcome. I know a lot of people want to write about their ancestors, and so this
Yes.
would be a great interview to watch and learn and connect with Tamara. So tell me first about you and share your story, and then we'll get into the book.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me on your show. This is just fantastic. And, I've just had a passion for genealogy and family history for so long now. I don't ever really remember not being interested in it. And I was exposed to it, as a child. And I think as a child, I kind of took it for granted. I was like, oh, yeah, these are stories, whatever. And now it's like I'm trying to make a career out of it because, I wrote this book. We found it was a COVID project. My mom kind of rediscovered her mother's diaries, and they're written in Russian from 1920, century old diaries, 5 volumes of them written in a little composition book right here. There's the first volume. And so it just started out as like a COVID project, like giving us something to do, kind of to pass the time. And and at the same time, kind of parallel to this COVID project, my father was starting to kind of show some signs of dementia. And so I think it really helped my mother and I bond to each other and, just have kind of a sense of purpose and kind of keep us sane with, with doing something productive. And meanwhile, I would ask my father questions about his side of the family. This book is on my mother's side of the family. Um, but yeah, so basically, we were translating the diaries. My mother's fluent in Russian, actually, both my parents. But she translated it. I kind of managed the editing and everything. And, as we delve into it, my grandmother wrote about two specific young girls. She was 12 at the time when she was on the ship. She lived, right, just to preface you, she lived on the steamship for 18 months in the Black Sea. And then once they evacuated finally the Crimea, they came up the coast of the Adriatic Sea. But yeah, she lived on this steamship for 18 months and wrote about it. And, it's a firsthand experience. And, as we delved into it and we researched who these people were that were on the ship with her, I discovered the granddaughter of one of her best friends on the ship. And I realized that at that point, it wasn't just my story to tell, that this is a story that needed to be shared because, at one point, there were 7,000 people on the ship, evacuating the former Russian Empire on November 14th, 1920, when the steamship only has a capacity to accommodate about 1,500 people. So, the ship was going back and forth, and it was a miracle the ship even made it out of the Black Sea. Um, but anyways, it turned into a huge project, and now it's, a few years later, it's a published book. And I just hope that, kind of part of my purpose was to, inspire other people to research their own past, no matter what their cultural background is. I think a lot of people can can relate to the story that have been displaced from their homeland. And, it was also a journey for me, discovering that I'm a lot more like my grandmother than I thought I was. So, and then this whole caregiving component of it, with my father, it just, he was kind of losing his short-term memory, but his long-term memory was still there. So I would ask him questions about his childhood when he was a refugee. leaving It was Poland at the time. Now it's Western Ukraine. And he would just light up. And it was just kind of like a light bulb, like, oh my gosh, people, in this day and world need to connect with their past so that they can feel connected, to themselves, to their future, their legacy. And it just kind of opened up a whole new world. And I just hope that um, people enjoy this, not only enjoy the story, but can relate to it. And hopefully it inspires them to look into their own family history. So that's my story in a nutshell.
The funny thing is that this story is so real even today, because even
Yes,
today people are being, moved around as
yes,
refugees, and because of the political climate,
yes,
some people are just moved from country to country and
yeah,
put in war camps, then brought back to
yeah,
the United States, then
yes,
shipped out. So,
yes,
it's just funny how,
yes,
this is still going on. I mean, you would think we would have learned something from that
yeah,
Russian Civil War to get
yes,
better at it, and I don't know. So the
yeah,
book. So this is a great thing. So you all discovered your grandmother's diaries. You all
yes,
translated them, and then you
yeah,
brought this all together into this fantastic
yes,
book. And
yes.
so tell us a little bit about the book and what readers can expect to learn. And I think this is great for summer. This is a great summer book to read on the plane, or if you're
Yeah.
traveling, or you just want to just sit on a hammock in your garden and
Yes, yes.
after your hard work, and just read a nice, relaxing book. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the book and what people can expect from the book.
Yeah, well, and even, reading it on a cruise ship because she actually lived on it. Wasn't what you think of a cruise ship today, of course. Her father worked on a steamship. He was basically a steward where he would, procure supplies for the ship, food for the ship. So they were lucky enough to have a cabin. And that they started in Odessa, which is present day Ukraine on the Black Sea. It's a big seaport. And her Lydia, my grandmother, her father, said to her mother, the political climate is really bad right now. Maybe we should just live on the ship while we go to his ship was supposed to go to Vladivostok, which, if you know your Russian geography, it is way on the east side. You have to go, there's only one way out of the Black Sea, and it takes 40 days, or at least in the 1920s, it took 40 days by ship to go from Odessa out through, you go out through Constantinople, or it was Constantinople at the time. Now it's Istanbul. You go out there and you go through the Suez Canal, you go around India, you go around Japan, and then it's just north of Japan is where Vladivostok is. So, her father Dmitri is like, oh, let's stay on the ship. We'll be safe here, because
Yeah.
there were people getting taken away.
Still
If you have
thrown off the
any,
boat. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have
All
any
that going on.
inclination, yeah, exactly. He's like, we have a cabin, we've got everything. So and I think this book is unique because it's told through the eyes of a child. It's me telling the story of my grandmother, and she was just 11. She I think she had some inclination of what was happening, but I don't think she really truly understood exactly what was going on, because she wrote about, to her, this was just an adventure, and it was an incredible adventure. She loved going to new countries, she had iced coffee for the first time in Alexandria, Egypt, and she wrote about that. And she's like, it's just so, she saw like palm trees for the first time in what is Montenegro. It's kind of a freshening view of firsthand, because you read about the history in the books, and it's very kind of like, this is what happened, but this kind of personalizes it and gives you a really, like I said, firsthand view on what was going on during the time. And so what readers can expect when they read the book is the first part is her story. She did not start the diaries until a year after she was already on the ship. So I had to do the research, go to the archives, or I had someone go to the archives for me. We found a crew list. We found a list where, I basically made an Excel spreadsheet of the timeline of where they were. So I was able to um, figure out kind of within a few days or a week, where they were during that first year. And it was pretty exciting to put all the pieces together because I've always loved puzzles. So, and then in the back, I have an appendices that has the crew list. So if somebody does read this book and is like, oh my gosh, my grandmother or great grandmother was on this ship and they
Yeah.
find their name, like I would love to connect with more people, descendants. Unfortunately, I started this project too late because most of the people have passed that were on the ship. But perhaps, they shared their stories with their children and grandchildren, and maybe, somebody else will come about and, read the story and be like, oh my gosh, we were on this. And my grandmother mentioned some recipes that her mother would make
Yes,
once
I
they.
saw that. Yes.
Yes, yes. So I have some family recipes on there for traditional Eastern European
Mm.
dishes that were, some of them were my favorite, some were not, like the herring. I did not like the herring, but apparently my grandmother that was on the ship, that was her specialty. And she hand wrote the directions out for my mother because I think my mother was going to make it once for Easter, and it was just funny how she described it. But and then I also have a couple chapters on, if you're interested in your own family history, just some, basic tips on how to get started because, everybody has a family story. Everybody has a story behind how they got to where you are today. Like if my grandmother didn't go through this um crazy adventure, I wouldn't be here today. If she didn't leave Russia, I wouldn't be here today to tell this story. So it's, and it gives yourself a connection as well. So I hope it inspires people to look into their own family history. Um, but yeah, so and then I have photographs in the book as well. And, you can go on my website and look at the pictures. They're in color, but not really. They're like sepia kind of color, and I did try to color some of them. And actually, right behind me is a painting of the Kherson, which is the steamship that she was on, and it was painted by an artist. And I believe we have a picture of him in one of the um, photographs that I have in the book. We kind of researched him. And so that's really cool. This is a digital copy of the original that the granddaughter of my grandmother's best friend on the ship had given me. So it's a lot of story and chaos going on. And like I said, it's from a child's eye view, and it's, a different, a different take, I think, on history than, rather than just reading it in a history book. It makes it more real, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is such like a little wealth of knowledge,
Yes.
and I think that the book definitely resonates with anyone. And I love the recipes, by the
Yes.
way. So talk about herring. I have a lot of Russian friends. The herring, if it's prepared correctly,
Yes. Yes.
it's when you just
Yes.
broil it and all the quality of
Yeah.
the eating is not good because remember Russia has fresh fish, but when
Yes.
we taste it, it's like either canned or
Yeah.
so it's the quality of the herring that makes a
Yes.
difference. And I think,
Yes.
of course, who doesn't like the borscht soup? That's one of my
Oh, yes.
and I just love the book. I love it. It's so well written, well researched. There's so much in it for anyone. And I think it's just fabulous. Great
Thank you.
job. And I'll definitely
Thank
put it on
you.
our reading list for this month. It is in the Brightside bookstore for anyone who wants to get it. Please go ahead and pick it up today. And if you do pick it up, write a review so that we know you're paying attention. So don't forget to subscribe if you like this interview, you want to know more about it. Let me know, and we'll let you know when Tamara is next on the show, and you can get a ticket to meet her. So just let us know, write us a comment. Thank you for watching Discover Bright Side, and this has been really fabulous.